Hi guys, so something that has been covered quite a lot in previous videos I've done and that other people have done, like Scalagrim and Lloyd and other people out there, is covering the basic point that there is no best weapon, that different weapons are good for different things. Clearly if I want to shoot someone in the head who's 400 yards away, the best weapon is a rifle with a telescopic sight. Clearly if I want to defend myself in a very small space, like a telephone kiosk, telephone box, then clearly something like a knife might be a better weapon than something like a two-handed sword. Okay, so context clearly has a very big part in how good a weapon is. But there is a flip side to that coin. So when we discuss in these videos, you know, kind of like longsword versus katana, or rapier versus longsword, or sword and buckler versus longsword, or whatever, often people fall back on the easy and seemingly educated opinion of, oh well, it's all based on context, and you know, different weapons are designed for different environments, and fighting against different types of people, you know, with different types of clothing or different types of armour. Yes, this is fundamentally true. However, if we're going to talk about one weapon versus another, we can, if we want, pick the context. And if you look at the frankly quite funny videos of katana versus whatever, you get lots of katana fanboys and fangirls who essentially go, you know, the katana is better at everything than any other sword, which those of us who actually know about swords, or know about katanas, or know about other kinds of swords, we all pretty much accept that's not true. There are some things the katana is very good at, and there are some things that other types of sword are better at. Okay, clearly a rapier has a longer reach than a katana. Clearly a two-handed sword, it has hits with more force than a katana, and so on and so on. Different swords have different pluses and minuses. However, whilst it's very politically correct, as I've said, to say that, oh well, there's no best swordman, they're all cool in their different environments. That is kind of true. However, we can say, okay, what about two guys wearing civilian clothes, fighting in the street? No one else is allowed to get involved. They don't have to worry about the law or the police turning up or anything like that. It's a duel, and they're not going to get disturbed. It's one-on-one, kind of like a cage fight. It's one-on-one. They can each pick a sword. What's the best sword to pick in that situation? Well, clearly then the next politically correct answer that lots of people fall back on is, oh well, it depends what they're what they're best trained in. Yes, that's also true. So if someone has trained for years with a katana, then probably the katana is the best thing for them to pick. If they've trained for years with a rapier, then a rapier is the best thing for them to pick. However, if we take two people who've got the same training, are the same size, same weight, same build, same kind of fitness, skill levels, everything else. You could even say they're clones of each other and have been they're twins, and they've been brought up in the same household, and they've been trained with a variety of weapons. You could at that point say that some swords might be better in a one-on-one fight than other swords. Now that's where it starts to get interesting and controversial. And I'm going to save the rest of my views about this topic for a later video. But I just want to leave you with that thought. In that situation, with two equal people, equal size, equal strength, equal stamina, equal training, an environment that's pretty neutral, civilian clothes, no armour involved, what swords are best in that environment? And I think you'll find actually that not all swords or all weapons are equal. Clearly, a halberd is a better weapon in that environment than a dagger. Okay? As extremes. There we go. A halberd is better than a dagger. I think probably 99 or maybe 100% of people watching this video can agree with that basic fact. Now if we narrow down those parameters, if we say on one side a machete and a rapier. I'm gonna stick my neck out here and say that I think the person with the rapier has a big advantage over the person with the machete. I think probably most of you will agree with me on that. Maybe some of you who love machetes, we'll call you the machete fanboys, you might disagree with me. However, I'd be fairly willing to bet money on this, that if you take 10 guys with machetes and they each have to fight in turn, and 10 guys with rapiers and they each have to fight in turn, I think you'll find that the odds are massively stacked in the favour of the guys with rapiers. And so if we accept that the machete and the rapier are still quite far apart extremes, narrow it down a little bit more. And there does come a point at which you can say, which has got the advantage, sword and buckler or longsword, or longsword and katana. And it might be that you end up saying, well, they're roughly equivalent, they're about the same, neither really has a clear advantage. But equally, there are some weapons, like the machete and the rapier, where there is a distinction and one does have an advantage. So, there we go. Have a discussion about it, something to think about. I'll talk about this and actually some more of my views of what weapons are roughly equal and which weapons are unequal in a future video. And the very parting thing I will say is, I'm clearly not the first person to raise this topic, but it is historical as well. If you look at George Silver in 1599, he has a hierarchy, a listing of weapons, where he states in a one-on-one fight which weapons and which weapon sets he thinks are better than the others and which have an advantage. There you go, something to think about. Cheers.